How's everybody doing? We having a good time? We enjoying Emerson Hour? Let me hear it. So I love coming to ILEETA. I tell you, the hardest part about being here is that I'm away from my family for a week. Who are parents? Who are the parents in the room? Let me see your hands. The struggle is real, right? My wife and I have 7-year-old twins, and it's like living in a real-life science experiment. For example, one day I found myself competing against my son and daughter in a coloring contest. And like any self-respecting dad, I wasn't just going to let them win, right? I got to kick their asses. And for the record, I totally won. But seeing their artwork set me on a path to discover what's become clear to me since last we met. You see, my daughter looked at the Star Wars coloring page and decided that Darth Vader could use a buddy. So she drew in a pink, fluffy unicorn dancing on a rainbow. My son, on the other hand, took a single black marker and in terrifying fashion covered the entire page in a swirling mess. It was so concerning I actually had to ask him what it was because I feared it was where my soul was going to go when he killed me in my sleep that night. Thankfully, it was a black hole. And with a huge sigh of relief, I realized that this entire experience provided a valuable commentary on creativity. You see, my attempts to crush my kids in a simple coloring contest had completely backfired. Instead, next to their artwork, my perfectly colored page looked like a sad statement of conformity. And it got me thinking about my own creativity and how our profession seems to value conformity at the expense of creativity. Now, I know if I ask you to think of the creative professions, law enforcement doesn't jump right to the top of the list, am I right? What do we think of? Painters, musicians, poets. We generally associate creativity with the arts. Unlike those professions, policing's filled with a ton of policies. There's policies on what to wear, how to talk, how to drive. I've seen that policy on bathroom breaks. Think about that for a second. My man over here can make a split-second decision about whether or not he needs to use deadly force. But if he drank too much coffee before going to work, you got to ask your boss if you can pee. Right? Doesn't make any sense, right? Now, I'm not anti-policy, and that's not my point here. What I'm trying to point out is that our profession seems to focus on risk management. We focus on not making mistakes instead of being excellent. And the problem I see with that is that given a long enough timeline, mistakes are inevitable. Because we work in a complex environment, one that's always changing and wildly unpredictable. And the key to succeeding in that type of environment isn't more conformity and structure, it's creativity. I found that most of our attitudes towards creativity are rooted in a misunderstanding of what it actually is. Psychologists have debunked the myth that it's a mysterious process in which a outside-the-box solution is developed by a creative genius. And they've settled on a much simpler definition that's super cop-friendly. They see it as a process in which something novel and useful is developed. New and useful. Cop-friendly, right? 2 words. This should make us as police trainers feel pumped because our programs are designed to provide new and useful ideas to our students to help them behave in a certain way. But what are we doing to foster their creativity? What are we doing to help them develop new and useful solutions to the problems they're going to face in a complex environment? You know, you're going to hear that we haven't taught until they've learned a lot over this next week. And I really believe that. But we also have to stop ourselves and ask what exactly it is that we want them to learn. Is it just the knowledge, skills, and attitudes built neatly inside our performance objectives? Because those are important, and they're very efficient. But everybody in this room knows that efficiency isn't the same thing as excellence. To be excellent, we need to capitalize on both the science and the art of teaching. And if the science is represented by our performance objectives, then creativity is the art. I mean, after all, we're in the human capital business, right? We're in the business of making people better. This is captured in a quote by General Perkins, who said that the Army doesn't buy things to fight, It develops capabilities to win in a complex environment that's always changing. And that's going to influence the development of a new leadership model, new training programs, and a new way of building the Army. So, what are we going to do to foster creativity? I tell you what, we should start by talking about something that we do to limit ourselves, and something called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is that very real feeling that at any given moment you're going to be exposed as a total fraud. Your ideas are no good, you stole them from somebody else, or they simply don't make any sense. It's the truth behind the joke that you'd much rather be the one in the casket than be the one sharing your thoughts by giving the eulogy. Imposter syndrome affects everybody. It's just that the people we see as being most creative have found a way to push through those awkward feelings so their ideas see the light of day. So we have to take comfort in the fact that it's a real phenomenon and stop using it as an excuse to hide behind conformity. One of the things that creative people do to help push through those awkward feelings is to surround themselves with a network. This network helps develop their ideas and build their confidence. But they're very deliberate about who those people are. Who's heard of the saying that we're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? Well, what happens when those people all look, act, and think just like us? Now let's add to that the fact that our phones are constantly trying to connect us to people and ideas that are similar to the ones we already hold. And the concern isn't about being 100 miles wide and 1 inch deep anymore. It should be about being 1 inch wide and 100 miles deep. I think the single best thing we could do to foster creativity is to surround ourselves with people and ideas that are either unrelated or incompatible with our own. Because creativity lies in the conflict between 2 ideas. I think that's why Emerson Hour is so impactful. Unlike the other classes you're going to attend this week, that you picked because you wanted to see that instructor or you liked that topic, you had no idea who was talking tonight or what we would talk about. So it's here where you're going to be exposed to those new and useful ideas that hopefully you can use to make something clear to you by the next time we meet. So how are we going to use those ideas and creativity to advance our profession? For this, I looked to the business world and something called disruptive innovation. It's what Apple did when it introduced the iPod to us. And it's hard to remember, but initially it was just seen as an expensive MP3 player. But that's not the whole story. We know, right? Not only did it render the Walkman obsolete, it redefined how we consume all media. And that's exactly what disruptive innovators do. They're not concerned about building a better mousetrap and making safe incremental improvements to an existing product. They're looking to redefine the marketplace so they could be successful selling live mice. I've been trying to wrap my head around what Brian Willis introduced us today about leaving the jersey in a better place. Because I do believe in that, but I also see that it could be a trap to fall into conformity. Because as leaders, we should be looking to think like Apple and looking outward to redefine our profession's excellence and be prepared to have to convince others that our new and useful ideas are important. So back to my kids. I had to humble them up the next day, and they're only like this tall, so it was just like a slam dunk contest. It was like just obliterated them. It was a bloodbath. It was awesome. Just kidding. What I learned throughout all this is that my kids aren't necessarily more creative than me. They just haven't learned all the ways that they're going to be expected to conform. Society's going to try to do that to them. It's going to be my job as one of their parents to try to prevent them or ensure that they never forget the power of their creativity. So I want to leave you all with a challenge. I'm going to challenge you to participate in something called moonshot thinking. It's pretty simple. What I want you to do is picture the new and useful future of our profession, and then work tirelessly with those around you to make that imagined future a reality. Thank you.